Let's talk about value inheritance in BSC Designer. And to explain this function, I will need some indicators. I will need sales indicator and I will need satisfaction rate indicator. So let me just move them a little bit so you won't be distracted. Okay, sales and satisfaction rate. Now I will enter the data, some data for sales indicator. I will enter it manually, but obviously you can enter it. So I have here just some random data for January and for March. And for satisfaction rate, I will enter, for example, for January, we have data for January. Let's enter for October, which will be 80%. So we'll need for sales for October as well, which will be 90%. Okay. Now I have a question for you. What do you expect the software to show you when we click on July? So for July, we don't have data. Yeah. So we click on July, and what do you want to see? Do you want to see 0? Do you want to see the same satisfaction rate that we had for April, or do you want to see the same satisfaction rate that you will have in October? I guess if we don't have data for July, there are still some satisfied clients as well. And if that's the case, the software is supposed to show something. It's supposed to show the last available data for satisfaction rate. So I click on July and the software shows me 60. How does the software know that its satisfaction rate is 60? Because in April, let's double check it. In April, we had satisfaction rate equal to 60. So that's the idea of inheritance. For satisfaction rate, the inheritance, it's default now, but the satisfaction rate is activated. The inheritance for satisfaction rate is activated. What about sales? The same question. We have data for January, for March, for October. So if I pick June or July, what the software should show me? Well, it's a tricky question. For sales, we need to be really careful about what data the software shows to us. We want to see real data. So probably we don't need to see inherited values like we needed in the case of satisfaction rate, but we need to see really entered values, values that were actually entered in the software. So for January, I see 20 because I have entered value. For March, I see 30. I have entered value. For October, I see some value. Yeah, but if I pick the July, the software won't show me anything because we use entered values only, no inheritance. That's the difference. That's the difference how the software used to calculate the performance as well. Because if I pick some date in the calendar where the value is known, it will calculate for me the performance. And for example, for sales, the value is not known for this date because it's not inherited. So the performance won't be calculated for this date. So that's the idea of inheritance. I have showed you how it can be changed. It can be changed here in the values editor. And one thing to mention that, for example, for this satisfaction rate indicator, let me enter in values editor. These values for the min and max will also be inherited by the software. So if I pick some date in the November, December, you see that after April we have some data for baseline, target, min, max. So the software is able to calculate the performance and the progress. But if I pick some date, for example, in May, the software doesn't have any data for the min, max, baseline, so it is not able to calculate the performance. Just a small nuance. In the case that most of your indicators are supposed to have inherited value, I would recommend for you to change the default inheritance that the software use. How to do this? You can do this in a File menu, Document Properties, Value tab. You have this option here, Use Inherited Values for Indicators. So if you uncheck this, by default, all indicators will be like sales. If you check it, all indicators will be like satisfaction rate with inherited value.